So you're trying to get up to speed on something complex, really understand it without wading through tons of stuff.
Yeah, that's what we aim for.
Great. Today, we're doing a deep dive into something pretty intense, actually. The Battle of Bougafer. This was back in the early 1930s.
And we've got some really interesting sources, firsthand accounts, anecdotes, and some incredibly powerful poetry from the people who were there.
Exactly. We're talking about the Ayadata tribes resisting the French colonial forces up in the Sagro Mountains in Morocco.
It's a dramatic setting for a really determined
It
resistance.
is. And the goal for us today, our sort of mission, is to pull out the key insights from these varied sources.
We want to understand the fighting itself, the people involved,
Yeah.
especially these renowned marksmen we hear about.
Yeah, and the women, too. Their role was significant. And then there's the aftermath, the impact of it all.
There are definitely some aha moments coming up, I think, regarding the skills involved, the sheer human cost, and how differently people saw the conflict's end.
Okay, let's start with these marksmen. They sound almost legendary.
They really had a reputation. Within the Ada, certain individuals were known for being, well, exceptional shots, elite shooters.
Right. We found this anecdote about Lawson of the At Baslam. Apparently, before the main fight against the French, he had trouble with his rifle.
Yeah, his Sayad, 9-shot rifle. It kept misfiring when he was trying to target people they considered collaborators or traitors.
But then, when the fight shifted to the French, the Rooney...
Something changed. He claimed that very same rifle never once failed him up in the mountains of Bougafer.
And get this, the account says 60 shots in a single day.
And his explanation, just none went over the head. 60 shots, 60 hits.
Wow. That kind of accuracy, I mean, what does that tell you?
It really speaks to the focus, the dedication that kicked in when facing the colonial forces. Like internal issues just melted away.
And he wasn't the only one, right? There were others.
Oh, yeah. Names like Muha Udmadit and Pronch also come up as famous marksmen, highly respected.
And Muha Udmadi, there's that incredible story about him taking out an enemy sniper.
Yes. This French sniper was apparently devastatingly effective, causing real problems.
So Muha Udmadi was assigned to, well, deal with him.
And the way he did it shows real ingenuity. They'd captured some French binoculars earlier.
Ah, okay.
He used those binoculars to carefully scan and locate the sniper, who was hidden between two clumps of alpha grass. Really well concealed.
So not just a quick shot then?
No, not at all. Very meticulous. He observed, memorized the distance, and then, this is crucial, he had another shooter confirm the sighting.
Double checking. Smart.
Exactly. Only then, using the two clumps of grass as markers, did he take his shot. And it worked. The account says they saw the plant shake violently. That was the sniper.
Just amazing. Almost cinematic. But
Yeah.
their impact went beyond just the shots they made, right? Even after they fell.
Definitely. There's this other account, possibly about the same person, Moha Al-Madid. He was so good
Yeah.
that when he was killed and his comrades took his rifle, the French captain on the other side immediately noticed the difference.
Huh.
The accuracy of the shots coming at them dropped significantly. The captain apparently said something like, "The rifle has changed hands."
Wow. So they recognized his skill by its absence, even though his body wasn't found right away.
Precisely. It just shows the individual impact these top marksmen had. But, the resistance was much bigger than just these shooters.
Right. The sources talk about the broader experience, the courage, the losses, and the divisions, too.
Yeah, this concept of lijour, I mean, the exodus, basically, people leaving their homes to resist in the mountains.
And they contrasted themselves with those who submitted, didn't they? The Biznan.
Yes, that term became really loaded, synonymous with betrayal.
And there's that story. It's sort of dark, but also strangely human, about the man fleeing.
Oh, yeah, with his son and his belongings, he gets exhausted.
And he has to choose, drop the cooking pot or drop his son.
He chose the pot. Apparently, it became this long-running joke aimed at the son.
Like, be quiet, a cooking pot is worth more than you. It sounds harsh, but it just captures the impossible choices people faced.
It really does. And it wasn't just the men. The role of women here is, well, striking.
Ejumu, that story's incredible.
Absolutely. She apparently terrified the French troops and their auxiliaries
How? What did she do?
by rolling huge stones down the cliffs onto them, especially when they tried nighttime attacks.
Rolling stones.
Did it?
At work.
The accounts claim she killed over 50 soldiers and auxiliaries that way.
50. That's astonishing.
It really is. And it shows this wasn't just men fighting, it was a whole community effort in a way.
And she became revered, didn't she? Almost like a saint.
Completely, both during her life and then as a martyr after her death. There was this deep respect.
So much so that people were disappointed later.
Yeah, there's poetry expressing this kind of lament that her grave didn't, produce miracles, like gold or fruit trees spontaneously growing there.
As if her power should have literally changed the earth.
Exactly. We have some translated lines. Since Ejimu is buried, my legs have no strength. And then stupefaction. Her cemetery has not produced gold. Stupefaction. Oranges do not grow there either.
Wow. That says so much about her status.
It really does.
Yeah.
And the poetry overall gives us such a window into the emotions of the time, especially around the end of the conflict.
Right, like the work of Hamo Ukla, written right after the fighting stopped.
It captures this really complex relief, maybe, but also this deep bitterness about the armistice, a sense of betrayal.
Betrayal by whom?
By those within their own community who negotiated with the French. Ukla's poem, channeling the voice of Ubislam, lays out conditions.
Conditions for surrender, like what?
Things like, we won't be commanded by those collaborators from the front, keep French parties away from our young women, and critically let us keep our weapons.
They wanted to keep their guns.
Yes. But the real sting comes when the poem talks about the collaborators getting benefits from the French, while the actual fighters, the resistors, got nothing.
Oof, that division sounds painful.
Very. And you see similar themes in other poems, too, like Khalida Churi's.
His reflects more on the loss, right? Bougafer is this place of struggle and grief.
Exactly. It's very personal, mourning someone lost and buried there. And he directly calls out the French figures, Chardon and Paulin.
The imagery there was really strong, something about mud.
Yeah, the woman of Bougafer symbolically tells Chardon to cover himself, his horse, and Paulin's soldiers in mud. It's pure contempt.
And there was that line about the prophet leading them, then turning away.
Yes, incredibly powerful imagery. Suggests a feeling of being abandoned, maybe even by God, in their struggle. It speaks volumes about their disillusionment.
That sense of abandonment seems to run through other poems, too.
It does. There's an anonymous piece, Mourning Fallen Comrades, by name, Hussein Awedi and Osif O. Martyrs.
Naming the dead. Very personal.
Very. And it contrasts their fate welcomed by angels with those who surrendered. They're called vauriers, basically good-for-nothings, only fit to dig graves for the French chef.
So the poets are really drawing lines in the sand between the martyrs and the survivors who submitted.
Stark lines.
Yeah.
And the anger towards the French is also raw. There's a poem about Captain de Bournazel.
What does that one say?
It emphasizes their defiance, saying they'd rather die than submit to Glaoui, the pro-French leader.
Mm-hmm.
And it wishes Bournazel cauterization with sulfur in his heart for all the deaths he caused.
Cauterization with sulfur. That's intense.
Visceral, isn't it? And it uses this devastating image of dead babies being like diseased palm trees. Just awful.
It really paints a picture of the human cost.
And Hassan Kujau's poem drives that home too, describing the sheer number of dead in the ravines.
How does he describe it?
He compares the bodies to logs jamming up in a flood, or like crops completely flattened by hail, just overwhelming carnage.
So much death. It's no wonder there were divisions about stopping the fight.
Exactly. And that division played out in poetry itself, like poetic arguments or jousts.
Between those who wanted to keep fighting and those who were exhausted.
Precisely. You have poems from the resistors filled with pride. Children of Bougafer deserve to be praised.
And defiance.
Oh yeah, taunting the French. If the Rumi is reckless, let him drop his automatic rifle, let him seize his bayonet and come face us on the cliffs.
Wow. But also drawing contrasts within their own side.
Yes, contrasting their loyalty to the Prophet with others who seem to be serving the French authorities, naming figures like Bougafer and Paulin.
It's noted that this particular poem is seen as very emotional, almost mystical, by the Amazigh people.
Which tells you how deeply it resonates, how much it captured the spirit of that resistance and the internal conflicts.
So pulling it all together, these accounts, these poems, what's the main takeaway?
I think it's the multifaceted nature of it all. You have the incredible skill and bravery like the marksman,
The crucial role of women like Ejumu.
the sheer resilience against a major colonial power, but also the profound loss, the lasting trauma, and the deep divisions the conflict created and left behind.
It feels like these sources give us a much richer picture than, just dates and troop movements.
Absolutely. It's history through the eyes and voices of those who lived it. Much more nuanced, much more human.
It really reminds you that history isn't just facts. It's woven from these individual stories, these sacrifices, the cultural memory.
And exploring these kinds of personal narratives and poetic expressions, it really challenges how we might typically think about resistance.
How so?
Well, it forces us to look beyond the battlefield tactics and consider the long-term emotional scars, the cultural shifts, the things that don't always make it into the standard history books.
Hmm. So, a final thought for our listeners to chew on, maybe.
Yeah, maybe consider this.
Hmm.
How do these intimate stories, these poems filled with such raw emotion, change how we understand not just this conflict, but conflict in general? What other hidden histories, what other human experiences might be waiting in similar sources, just needing to be listened to?